I still think about that weekend in Mazamitla. It was a couple of months ago. I'm 31 and a freelance graphic designer. I wanted to escape the busy city. I thought some peace and quiet would help me refocus after finishing a tough project. I had never been to Mazamitla before. When I got to the cabin, it looked charming, tucked away among tall pines. The air was fresh, and I could hear birds chirping. I felt excited. After I settled in, I went for a walk to explore. It was just me and the woods. I took a deep breath and enjoyed the solitude. But as the sun began to set, everything got quiet. It felt a little eerie, but I figured it was normal. I returned to the cabin, started making dinner, and tried to push the uneasy feeling away. That night, I lay in bed. It was dark and cold. Suddenly, I heard something outside. I thought it was just a raccoon. Then I heard faint muttering. I sat up straight, my heart racing. I listened closely, but the sound seemed far away one moment and then right outside in the next. I felt chills. Was it my mind playing tricks on me? I told myself I was being silly and tried to sleep. The next day, I went hiking. I needed to clear my head. As I walked, I heard the rustling again. It sent a shiver down my spine, but I shook it off. I didn't see anyone around. Then came the laughter of children. My heart skipped a beat. I thought maybe I was just remembering playing outside when I was a kid. I walked faster, trying to shake the odd feeling creeping up my spine. It didn't make sense. I saw no kids and no families. I convinced myself it was just nerves from the quiet surroundings. That night, I decided to sit on the porch. I wanted to relax and look at the stars. While I looked up, I noticed something odd on the wooden beams. Symbols? They looked like carvings. I felt a chill. When I looked closely, it felt like I saw shadows moving just beyond the trees. I blinked, and they were gone. The air felt heavy, like something was watching me. I didn't sleep well that night. The sounds outside grew stranger. I kept sitting up, listening. Was someone or something watching me? I couldn't shake that feeling. I packed up early the next morning. The symbols haunted me as I drove away. I had to get out. I still think about that weekend. I tell myself it was just the wind, just sounds in the woods. But the laughter and those symbols linger in my mind. I don't know what watched me that weekend, but part of me wishes I did. I tried to settle back into my everyday life, but the memories of that weekend wouldn't leave me. I went about my work, but my mind kept drifting back to the cabin. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Each time my phone chimed or someone knocked at my door, my heart raced. A couple of weeks later, an old friend suggested we go on a weekend trip. "Let's hit the mountains," she said with excitement. I hesitated, but a part of me thought it could help. Maybe facing my fears in that setting would finally put them to rest. So I agreed. We ended up at a different cabin in the woods, not too far from Mazamitla. It looked cozy, but as soon as we arrived, I felt a knot in my stomach. I pushed those feelings down, reminding myself that I was with friends. We unpacked, and my friend Lydia was eager to explore. She talked animatedly while I forced a smile, trying to act normal. That night, after dinner, we decided to sit around the fire pit outside. I laughed with them as they shared stories, but my mind wandered. When the laughter faded, the dark woods around us felt unnerving. The shadows shifted, and I kept catching glimpses of something out of the corner of my eye. I pretended to follow the conversations, but my thoughts were racing. "Are you okay?" Lydia asked, noticing I was distracted. I tried to brush it off. "Yeah, just tired." But as we talked, I started hearing the rustling again. I felt that familiar chill run down my spine. "Did you hear that?" I blurted out. They all paused, looking toward the trees. I could feel my heart racing. Was I being dramatic? "It's probably just animals," Lydia said. "You know how it is in the woods. Nothing to worry about." I wanted to believe her, but deep down, fear gnawed at me. Later that night, after everyone turned in, I lay restless on my cot. The sounds of the woods crept back into my ears, rustling, flickers of laughter. It wasn't just in my head. I could hear it swirling in the night air. I was too scared to get up and check. Then I remembered the symbols. I needed to know if anything like that existed here. I snuck out of the cabin. The moonlight guided my way as I ventured into the woods. I felt foolish but curious. What if I found something? I walked quietly, listening. The laughing grew louder, echoing through the trees. I followed the sound, my heart pounding hard. Then I stumbled upon a small clearing. In the middle stood a rough-hewn stone, its surface covered in carvings, symbols just like the ones I had seen before. That's when I saw it. Dark figures peeking from behind the trees. They were watching. I froze, panic rushing through me. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't move. Was I dreaming? I blinked and they vanished. I turned and sprinted back to the cabin, breathless and terrified, my mind racing with dread. What had I just seen? As I locked the door behind me, I realized that whatever had watched me before was still out there. I couldn't escape it. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. Every creak of the cabin felt like a warning. I could still see those dark figures in my mind, their eyes glinting in the moonlight. I squeezed my eyes shut, but it didn't help. Just a dream, I whispered to myself, just your imagination. Yet deep down, I knew I couldn't shake it off so easily. Morning crept in slowly. Sunlight poured through the window, but the warmth didn't chase away my fears. I needed to talk to Lydia about what I'd seen. Maybe I wouldn't sound so crazy if I shared it. I splashed water on my face, steeling myself for the conversation ahead. As the day unfolded, Lydia and the others seemed cheerful. They planned a hike to a nearby lake. I forced myself to join them, hoping the fresh air would clear my head, but anxiety bubbled beneath my surface. On the trail, the woods around us felt different, thicker, almost menacing. I tried to laugh along with them, but each rustle in the bushes sent my heart racing. We reached the lake, a shimmering blue in the sunlight, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. "Hey, what's wrong?" Lydia asked, noticing my distant gaze. "Did you ever feel like something is watching us?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Her brow furrowed. "No, why do you ask?" "I don't know. Maybe I'm just being weird." I forced a smile, but it felt brittle. We lounged by the shore, but I kept scanning the tree line. Was I imagining things, or did I see shadows moving? I focused hard, trying to convince myself it was just the wind. When we headed back, everything felt heavier. Just as we approached the cabin, I caught movement out of the corner of my eye. My breath hitched. I turned quickly, but there was nothing. Nothing but the whisper of leaves swaying in the breeze, mocking me. At the cabin, I started venting my feelings to Lydia, but she cut me off. "Let's just enjoy our time here," she said. "You're overthinking it. It's just in your head." I wanted to agree, but my instincts screamed otherwise. After dinner, I proposed a game to distract myself. We gathered around the table, playing cards and laughing, but I kept glancing towards the back door, half expecting something to come through. Later, as everyone turned in, I lay on my cot, tossing and turning. I couldn't shake the feeling I had outside last night. So I got up. Maybe I could face it. I wanted to find that clearing again, but the thought paralyzed me. I quietly stepped outside and headed into the woods. Each snap of a twig made me flinch. I walked cautiously, heart racing. The moon lit my path, making the dark trees look like watchers. Finally, I reached the clearing. The stone stood glaring at me, its symbols like eyes judging my presence. That's when I felt it, a chill creeping over my skin. I turned to leave, but the figures were back. They emerged from the shadows, stepping into the moonlight. This time, I didn't blink. I couldn't. "Who are you?" I whispered, heart pounding in my chest. They didn't respond. Instead, one of them stepped closer, and my breath caught in my throat. I backed away, but there was nowhere to go. Then, everything went dark as the figures closed in around me. I woke up gasping, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and pine. My heart hammered in my chest, and I could hardly process what had happened. The figures were gone, but their presence lingered in the air. Around me, the woods were silent, too silent. I blinked, trying to shake off the remnants of my nightmare. I was still in the clearing, but how long had I been there? Panic rose up. Fumbling to my feet, I looked around, expecting to see the shadows again, but there was nothing. The moon hung high, casting eerie shapes among the trees. I started walking back to the cabin, each step shedding my dread, though the feeling of being watched clung to me like a shadow. When I made it back, the cabin was quiet. I crept inside, trying not to wake the others. The clock on the wall ticked softly, and the faint glow of dawn began to push through the windows. I could hear my friends breathing in their sleep, blissfully unaware. I lay back down, but sleep was impossible. I replayed every detail of my confrontation in the clearing, searching for clues. What were those figures? Why had they appeared? And what did they want? Suddenly, I heard a noise, a soft tapping coming from the kitchen. My stomach dropped. Lydia had mentioned strange sounds in the night before. I grabbed my phone for light and cautiously made my way toward the source. The cabin felt vast and empty as I moved through it. Peering into the kitchen, I felt my breath catch again. The back door was ajar, swinging slightly with the breeze. I wasn't sure if I should go out there, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to investigate. I stepped outside, the cold air hitting my face. I scanned the surrounding trees, but saw nothing. My eyes fell on something on the ground beside the door. Kneeling down, I picked up a twig, a piece of thick, gnarled wood. Scratches ran along its surface. It looked old, like it didn't belong there. But something about it felt familiar. I turned it over, and that's when I saw it. Faint symbols etched into the bark. Symbols similar to those on the stone in the clearing. My heart raced. If this twig came from the clearing, then the figures weren't mere figments of my imagination. They were real. I grabbed my phone and snapped a picture, the light illuminating the carvings. As I stood there, anxiety clawed at my throat. Should I tell Lydia? What if they thought I was losing it? Just then, I heard it again, a rustling in the bushes nearby. My head snapped towards the sound. Something moved just out of sight, but I couldn't tell what it was. Frozen, I held my breath, straining to catch a glimpse. Then, a low growl rumbled through the silence. It sent chills down my spine. I needed to get back inside. I stumbled backward, adrenaline surging through me. Just as I turned to run, movement caught my eye in the shadows behind the tree line. Someone, or something, was watching me. I didn't wait to see what lurked in the shadows. My instincts kicked in, and I bolted towards the cabin, frantic steps pounding the ground beneath me. The door creaked as I pushed it open, slamming it shut behind me. I leaned against it, panting, trying to quiet my racing heart. Inside, I could barely make out the shapes of my friends on the floor. The familiar sight should have comforted me, but the feeling of dread only grew stronger. What if whatever was out there had followed me? I glanced at the windows, half expecting to see a figure watching me through the glass. I took a deep breath. I had to act rationally. Reaching for my phone, I opened the picture of the twig. The claws of fear still gripped me, but I needed to show Lydia. Maybe she'd know what we were dealing with. I turned to head back to the sleeping area when I heard it again. A faint rustle, followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps, heavy and deliberate. My blood ran cold. I glanced back at the door, wondering if it would hold. "Lydia," I whispered, shaking her shoulder gently. "Wake up. We need to talk." Her eyes fluttered open, groggy at first. Then she registered my expression, and her demeanor shifted. "What's wrong?" "I think something's outside," I blurted out, voice trembling. She furrowed her brow, sitting up fully now. "What do you mean? Are you sure?" Before I could respond, another sound echoed through the cabin, a sharp tapping right at the back door. My stomach twisted. "Stay here," I warned her, and she nodded. I grabbed my phone, the dim light bearing down on my shaking hands, and edged toward the sound. As I approached the back door, I felt the cold air seep in through the narrow gap. The tapping grew more insistent, like something was trying to get in. I hesitated. What if I opened it and it wasn't something I wanted to see? Then I remembered the twig, the symbols. Deep down, I knew this might be connected to whatever was out there. Gritting my teeth, I fished through my pockets for anything that could help. I finally found the small pocket knife I'd taken from the kitchen. It seemed flimsy against whatever awaited me. "Lydia, if I open this door, you need to stay back," I called over my shoulder without taking my eyes off the door. "Are you insane?" she shot back. "I have to do this," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I slowly turned the handle, taking a deep breath. The door creaked as I pulled it open, revealing the darkness outside. At first, I saw nothing. Then, a figure stepped into the moonlight. My breath caught in my throat. It wasn't just one shadow. There were at least three, their features hidden in the gloom, but their eyes, they gleamed like the brightest stars. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over a chair. "Oh God, Lydia!" I shouted. But before I could react, they began to advance, and my instincts screamed at me to run. My body moved before my mind could catch up, propelling me back into the cabin. I slammed the door and locked it, my heart pounding as I turned to Lydia. "We have to leave, now!" But when I looked back, she wasn't there. The room was empty, except for the shadowy figures looming just beyond the door. My heart dropped. I had to find her. Something was very wrong. And as that realization set in, a chilling thought struck me. What if they hadn't only come for me? I turned quickly, panic tightening around my chest. "Lydia?" My voice echoed in the silence, but only the sound of my own breathing replied. I dashed toward the sleeping area, my heart racing even faster. She had to be here. She had to. The cabin was dimly lit, with shadows pooling in every corner. I scanned the room frantically. "Lydia!" This time, my voice cracked. I felt utterly alone, like the darkness itself was closing in around me. The tapping at the back door intensified, and I flinched at the sound. Had they, whatever they were, come for her? I couldn't think about that right now. I couldn't let myself spiral. I pushed through the dread clawing at my mind and kept searching. I checked the bathroom, the tiny kitchen, every nook and cranny, calling her name. But she was gone. I felt a cold sweat break across my forehead. Where could she have gone in just a few seconds? Then I remembered the last time I'd seen her, her wide eyes full of confusion and concern before I opened the door. And the tapping. I felt a knot form in my stomach as I considered the possibility that she had gone outside. "No," I whispered to myself, shaking my head. I couldn't let that be true. I had to see for myself. My legs carried me unwillingly back to the back door. I hesitated, hand hovering over the knob. What if they were still there? What if whatever had taken her was waiting? The tapping turned to scratching, sharp and frantic. I gritted my teeth and opened the door, ready to dive back into the fray. Outside, the moonlight illuminated the yard, empty. No sign of Lydia or those shadowy figures. I squinted into the dark, trying to catch any movement. "Lydia!" I shouted again, voice breaking through the stillness. A gust of wind whooshed through the trees, making them creak and groan. Then I saw it, a flash of something white at the edge of the woods. My heart leapt, hope igniting within me. I sprinted toward the trees, calling her name again and again. But as I neared the tree line, the moon dipped behind a heavy cloud, plunging everything into darkness. "Lydia!" Panic bubbled over, the quiet eerie now seeming like a graveyard. My voice echoed, swallowed by the night. I took another step into the shadows, the sense of dread creeping back. That's when I heard it, soft whispers mingling with the rustling leaves, though I couldn't make out the words. It sent chills down my spine. I stepped back, heart racing. "Lydia, is that you?" The words trembled out, but silence answered. With a deep breath, I turned back to the cabin. I had to think. Whatever had taken my friend was still close, and I needed to regroup. But as I started to move, I felt a presence at my back, an invisible weight in the air. Then, behind me, came the sound of footsteps. My blood ran cold. Someone, or something, was in the trees. I turned, but saw nothing, only the vastness of the dark and the whisper of the wind. Then everything went dark. I gasped, the air suddenly thick as I stumbled backwards, trying to claw my way back into the light of the cabin. I felt disoriented, like I was caught in a heavy veil of darkness. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic reminder that I was still alive. But alive didn't mean safe. "Lydia!" My voice was hoarse and desperate. I blinked into the void, but saw nothing. Then I forced myself to stand still, listening, straining against the oppressive silence. Was I imagining things, or did the whispers grow louder, echoing in a language I didn't understand? It felt like they were circling me. I shook my head, trying to focus. I had to get back to the cabin. The thought of going deeper into the woods was terrifying, but I also couldn't shake the feeling that Lydia was still out there. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I took a steadying breath and started toward the cabin door. Each step felt like I was cutting through a dense fog. But as I neared the door, I heard a rustling in the bushes behind me. My stomach dropped. I couldn't help it. I spun around, eyes wide. Nothing. "Please be there," I murmured to myself. Was I imagining her? The quiet seemed to pulse around me, tightening like a noose. I forced myself to push open the door, the familiar creak sounding louder than ever. I stepped inside, fighting the urge to slam it shut behind me. The dim light flickered around the room, but the darkness still seemed alive outside. I leaned against the door, panting. I had to think. I had to be smart. Maybe she had left a clue, something I had missed in my panic. I turned back to the cabin, determined to find something, anything. I switched on the small lamp by the couch, casting a warm glow around the room. I began to search again, riffling through her stuff, flipping cushions and checking every drawer. Nothing. My breath came out in ragged gasps as frustration mixed with fear. Then I caught sight of something glinting beneath the coffee table. I knelt down, my fingers trembling as I reached for it. It was her bracelet, the one with the small silver charm shaped like a star. My heart sank. She wouldn't just leave it behind. I had to find her. I made my decision. I would not wait inside, hiding. I'd search the woods. I put on a jacket, feeling the fabric brush against my skin like a whisper of reassurance. Then I opened the door slowly, straining to hear for anything out of place. That's when I saw it, a flicker of white in the trees, something moving just beyond the edge of the cabin's light. For a moment, hope surged through me. "Livia?" I called tentatively, stepping back into the night. But no answer came, only silence. My heart felt like it was going to burst as I stepped into the shadowy embrace of the woods. The whispering resumed, swirling around me like a dark wind. I squinted into the shadows, adrenaline making me feel alive in a way that scared me. I took another step forward, driven by the need to find her. But then, a sudden rustle broke the night. I froze, breath hitching in my throat. Fear washed over me as two glowing eyes appeared moments before everything around me erupted into chaos. The creature lunged from the shadows, a blur of fur and teeth that knocked me backward. I stumbled, my feet slipping in the damp leaves as I hit the ground. Panic surged through me. I scrambled to my feet and turned to run, heart racing, but the beast was too fast. Its breath was hot on my neck. I darted toward the cabin, the wood looming ahead like a safety net. I could still hear the eerie whispers growing louder in my ears, urging me to turn around, to confront whatever was chasing me. Cursed curiosity held me, but fear propelled me forward. I reached the door and flung it open, slamming it shut behind me, and locked it with trembling hands. Panting, I pressed my back against the door and listened. Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. I strained to hear anything beyond the cabin walls. I wanted to believe I was safe, but the feeling of being watched pressed in from all sides. "Lydia!" I shouted again, my voice echoing in the small space. An unsettling stillness met my cries. There was no response, just the distant rustle of leaves outside. I had to keep it together. I had to think. I scanned the cabin, searching for something, anything that could help me. In the fading light, I spotted Lydia's backpack half hidden under a chair. I rushed over, unzipping it frantically. Inside were her clothes, a flashlight, and a small first aid kit. At least I could arm myself. As I worked, I tried to calm my racing thoughts. Maybe Lydia had a plan. Maybe she was okay. I grabbed the flashlight and turned it on, the beam breaking through the darkness, searching every corner of the room. That's when I noticed a small piece of paper tucked inside her journal. My heart raced as I pulled it out. It was a note in her handwriting, a list of things to do while we were here. But the last line made my stomach twist. "If anything goes wrong, follow the stream to the clearing." What did she mean? Go to the clearing? My gut twisted at the thought of her being out there alone. I needed to find her. I had to trust her instincts. Maybe the stream could lead me to her. In a rush, I zipped the backpack shut, grabbing the flashlight in one hand and the bracelet in the other. I opened the door a crack, peering into the night. The air was still, but I swore I heard the whispers again, creeping up from the shadows, taunting me. I stepped outside, the cold air biting into my skin as I closed the door behind me. I hesitated for a moment, scanning the dark trees. The sound of the stream bubbled faintly in the distance, a lifeline beckoning me to follow. With every step, the whispers softened, replaced by the soothing sound of water flowing. Hope ignited within me. If Lydia was near the stream, I would find her. But as I moved deeper into the woods, the feeling of being watched returned, stronger this time, as if the darkness was no longer just a backdrop, but an active participant in this nightmare. My heart dropped when I heard another rustle in the underbrush, louder this time, a clear warning. I edged away from the path, the flashlight beam slicing through the shadows. Then I heard it, a low growl, deeper than before. I froze, my mind racing. Whatever was out there wasn't gone. It was waiting. I took a shaky breath, focusing on the growl. It vibrated in my chest, an ominous reminder that I wasn't alone. I stepped back, careful not to make a sound, but the branch beneath my foot cracked, loud enough to echo in the silence. "Damn it," I muttered under my breath, my heart hammering in my ears. The growl shifted, morphing into a low snarl, closer now. I aimed the flashlight toward the sound, but the beam struggled against the thick, encroaching darkness. I could see nothing, just shadows twisting in the corners of the light. I could either stay and wait for whatever it was to come at me, or I could run. The thought of running made my insides twist. What if I ran into it? But Lydia, I had to find her. I took another cautious step backward. That was when I saw it, a pair of glowing eyes peering at me from the underbrush. They were unblinking, reflecting the flashlight like two small lanterns lodged in darkness. I couldn't tell the distance between us, but those eyes were hungry. In a surge of adrenaline, I turned and sprinted down the stream's path. I could hear the creature crashing through the underbrush behind me, branches snapping as it tore after me. The cold air bit at my face, and each breath felt like fire in my lungs. The flashlight's beam danced wildly, illuminating fleeting glimpses of trees, rocks, and shadows. I didn't stop to think. Instincts kicked in. I followed the sound of rushing water, hoping it would lead me to Lydia or safety. My feet splashed in the stream as I leaped across, narrowly avoiding a slick stone. I stumbled but regained my footing quickly. I still heard the growl, but it was distant now. Had I gained some ground? I dared not look back. Then I saw it, a faint glow up ahead. It flickered like a candle in the dark. My heart raced again, but this time with hope. I charged toward the light, praying it was a sign of safety, of other people. The whispers flared up in my memory. What if this was a trap? I burst through the thicket and skidded to a halt. The clearing opened before me, small but bright. A fire burned in the center, its flames dancing wildly. And around it were figures, shadows that were easily distinguished now. My pulse quickened. They were sitting, their backs to me, as if waiting for something. Or someone. "Lydia," I called out, but my voice trembled with uncertainty. One of the figures turned slowly. I recognized the face. It was Lydia's. Relief flooded over me, but it quickly twisted to panic when I noticed the expression on her face. She looked pale, her eyes wide and frightened. "No!" she shrieked, jumping to her feet. "Get back! Don't come closer!" Confusion shot through me. I was about to ask why, but everything changed in an instant. The growl surged back, now deafening, as the creature broke free from the trees. This time, there was no escaping. It bounded toward me, fangs bared, and with Lydia's warning echoing in my ears, I realized I wasn't the only one trapped in this nightmare. I stumbled back, the firelight behind me flickering ominously. Just as fear seized me fully, the shadows around the fire shifted and became more defined, darker than night. I turned, caught between two deadly forces that I could neither reason with nor escape from. This was just the beginning. I stood there, frozen, caught between two worlds, one drenched in shadows and the other flickering with fear. The creature's growl echoed through the clearing, shaking my bones. Lydia was screaming at me to run, but all I could do was stare at her, helplessness washing over me. "Lydia!" I managed to shout again, my voice drowned out by the thundering beat of my heart and the creature's advancing growl. The other figures by the fire turned as well, their faces now illuminated, revealing eyes that mirrored the glow of the flames. Shadows, or something more? Before I could process it, a rush of adrenaline kicked in. "Lydia, we need to go!" I lunged forward, ignoring the dread swelling inside me. Whatever was waiting behind me could shatter this fragile moment. Her gaze locked onto mine, and for a fleeting instant, I saw recognition, maybe even fear shared between us. Just as I stepped closer, the creature lunged, massive and dark. It barreled toward me like a freight train. I turned and ran, instinct overriding reason. The whispers grew louder. The night itself seemed to conspire against me.
The fire's warmth faded behind me, and I could hear nothing but the thunderous rush of my own breath and the creature's pursuit. "Follow the stream," Lydia's voice rang out, but it was like an echo swallowed by the forest. I darted back into the thicket, splashing through the cold water, feeling every muscle scream with protest. I could hear the creature's breath right behind me, the ground shaking as it closed in. I veered left, taking a risk in hopes of losing it in the underbrush. I wasn't sure if it worked, or if the creature simply slowed down to toy with its prey. But the icy grip of fear propelled me forward. I couldn't let it catch me. I couldn't leave Lydia behind. With every step, I could hear the rustling of leaves and the twigs snapping underfoot. It was like the entire woods were alive, a twisted game of predator and prey. I pushed through the night, desperate to find my way back, to confront that fire where Lydia had last stood. At last, I reached the edge of the clearing once more, and I froze.
The scene before me was surreal, casting an otherworldly glow in the half-light of the fire. The figures were still there, and they were watching, expressions unreadable, like statues suspended in a moment of tension. And at the center, Lydia had turned back toward the clearing, her face pale and drawn. But now there was something else. The darkness swelled around the fire, shapes shifting where before there had only been flickering shadows. The creature snorted, the sound deep and guttural. I desperately waved my arms to catch Lydia's attention. "We need to leave, now!" In her chaotic eyes, I saw the fear dramatically transform into something resigned. She wasn't backing away. She was merging with them. "No, you don't understand. I have to," she cried, but her voice faded under the roars of the creature charging toward us. I instinctively jumped into the firelight, fighting back tears of desperation. "We can't let it have you. We need to go home." That seemed to break through whatever grip they'd held on her. "Home," she whispered back, the words steeped in longing and pain. As I stepped closer to her, the figures wriggled in the flames, somehow agitated. The creature halted just outside the perimeter of firelight, near the trees, growling menacingly. "Stay back!" I screamed at the shadows. I aimed my flashlight at the figures, illumination cutting through the darkness. Their features were clearer now, hungry, grotesque, and ethereal. The light seemed to anger them. The murmurs rose into a cacophony, swirling around me like a storm. The ground trembled, and I swiftly realized I had to back away. Just when I thought it would end, the darkness, the figures, my fear, it shifted again. The shadows receded, and in a moment's glimpse, I could see that they were not entirely evil. Perhaps the whispers were warnings, not threats. But what did they want? "Lydia, you have to fight against this. Fight for us," I called again, desperation clawing at my throat. Her eyes flickered, like she was battling within her own mind. Whether it was the weight of their pull or the frantic energy around us, I couldn't tell. The growl of the creature signaled its impatience. "Please," I cried out, wishing my voice would cut through the darkness. "Choose me." In that moment, everything changed. Lydia blinked at me, and suddenly I could see it. It was as if she were struggling against an unseen force that urged her to stay. A tear trickled from her eye, and for the briefest second, I thought I'd lost her again. "Run!" she shouted. I spun around, only to see a flash of darkness closing in, a black shape lunging. There was no time left. I darted to the side and fled back into the forest, the world blurring around me as I broke through thickets and rocks. The whispers reached a high pitch, rising in a frightening crescendo, urging me to turn back, to come close to what loomed behind me. "Lydia, you have to fight against this. Fight for us," I called again, desperation clawing at my throat. Her eyes flickered, like she was battling within her own mind. Whether it was the weight of their pull or the frantic energy around us, I couldn't tell.
The growl of the creature signaled its impatience. "Please," I cried out, wishing my voice would cut through the darkness. "Choose me." In that moment, everything changed. Lydia blinked at me, and suddenly I could see it. It was as if she were struggling against an unseen force that urged her to stay. A tear trickled from her eye, and for the briefest second, I thought I'd lost her again. "Run!" she shouted. I spun around, only to see a flash of darkness closing in, a black shape lunging. There was no time left. I darted to the side and fled back into the forest, the world blurring around me as I broke through thickets and rocks. The whispers reached a high pitch, rising in a frightening crescendo, urging me to turn back, to come close to what loomed behind me. I pounded on through the trees, the feeling of being watched, familiar yet unnerving, my heart racing. Whether it was both supernatural and natural, everything felt tangible and yet haunted by the void. But I had to survive. I had to escape this darkness. Somewhere amidst the layers of chaos, I thought I heard Lydia calling for me, but my own voice pushed the sounds out. I ran until my legs burned and my lungs gasped for air. The landscape spun wildly, both familiar and foreign, but I flattened out, rolling down the bank beside the stream until I hit the water. I lay there, gasping under the coolness, staring at the night sky above. I wished I could return to that cozy cabin, where the idea of danger felt far away. But now I was left with a choice. The figures may still exist, lurking, and the shadows may have not fully receded. My heart raced with questions, echoes of uncertainty. Was Lydia still out there? Who was watching me? Did I have the strength to confront whatever haunted me? I fumbled for my phone, fingers trembling over the cracked screen. Zooming into the momentary reflection of myself, the shock, the fear, the guilt, it flickered against the glass. A chill crept through me. Would I walk back into the darkness I had just fled? Somehow the struggle felt unfinished. The memory of the creatures, whispers, and Lydia could linger, forever unanswered. I stood, the water rolling past me like time itself. As I turned back toward the darkness shrouded behind me, somehow, in the back of my mind, I understood that the echoes of silence would haunt me wherever I went.